Mobi from the Southwest. He's the Southwest representative. Reverend James Palm. The urge for the welcome everybody is
for national reformation. Looks in the front. When an elderly person falls down, he looks backwards to examine the cause of his fall. The attention of the movement for national reformation has been drawn to some unsavory outbursts from the constellations of the 10-day nationwide protest in Nigeria tagged End Bad Governance that started on 1st August 2024, and wish to hereby condemn in strong terms the attendant loss of lives, properties, livelihood, and strident clamors for a hostile and undemocratic change of government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As patriots, we in MNR stand in solidarity with the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and urge it to expedite action in bringing succor to the plight of citizens without any further delay. It is pertinent to draw the attention of the federal government to the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy that states that security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. In this regard, we in MNR wish to hereby convey our condolences to families that lost their wards during the protest and pray for speedy recovery of those who sustained injuries. At this point, we'll observe 1 minute silence for our citizens that lost their life during the protest in honor of them. May the souls of our fellow citizens who lost their life during the national protest rest in peace with the Lord.
Amen.
It is regrettable that a noble civic act of protest was infiltrated by forces hostile to the sovereignty and national interests of Nigeria to inflict sorrow on the nation and families, as well as distract government from the main thrust of the issues in contention. The operating 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, emphasizes the cardinal relevance of the security and welfare of the people as the primary purpose of government. Unfortunately, this fundamental objective of state policy has been breached by successive federal and state governments in Nigeria since the return to democratic governance in 1999. We at MNR are sad to note the failure of federal and state government in upholding such a basic noble objective of governance. We consider a government as a collective body of elected and appointed institutions empowered to legislate and adjudicate for the good of society, while governance is the processes and systems by which a government manages the resources of a society to address socio-economic and political challenges in the polity. With extraordinary prescience, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, in blessed memory, declared at the end of the Civil War, I quote, "As far as I can understand, the aggressors against peace and stability in Nigeria are abject poverty, hunger, disease, squalor, and ignorance. They are the enemies which must now be crushed, and crushed ruthlessly." Quote, "We recognize the prevalence of abject poverty, hunger, disease, squalor, and ignorance as the real internal enemies confronting the citizens, and hence call on federal and state governments to effectively communicate their policies, programs, and projects aimed at enhancing the pursuit of happiness by citizens, devoid of propaganda, in order to mold public expectation about governance. In addition, the profligacy and corruption of officials of federal and state government need to be curbed in order to free scarce resources for service delivery of the dividends of democracy to all citizens. The end of bad governance. The rights of citizens to protest is a critical element in the social contract with democratic governments, which is not new in our climate. But we in MNR, as major participants in the battle against the dictatorship of military rule in Nigeria, will not allow any section of the population to destroy the basic gains of democracy we have achieved since 1999. When a protest that is supposed to draw government's attention to its poor policies is hijacked by forces hostile to sovereignty and national interests of Nigeria, then MNR, like most patriotic Nigerian organizations, must condemn these forces and align with the federal government led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. MNR was a major participant in the battle against military dictatorship, and it cannot allow any section of the population to destroy the little gains we have achieved since 1999. Those who are converting the platform of the end governance protest to advocate for the dismemberment of Nigeria or calling for a military coup and flying the flags of foreign countries are existential threats to the sovereignty and national interests of Nigeria. Consequently, we in MNR wish to urge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to thoroughly investigate such unpatriotic acts and bring culprits to justice. We call upon Nigerian citizens, especially those that emerge from the overcoats of MNR, NADECO, and PRONACO, and fought for the restoration of civil democratic governance in Nigeria, not to allow unpatriotic elements to destabilize Nigeria. The strategic alliance between MNR, NADECO, and PRONACO and other democratic forces played a crucial role in the return to civilian democratic governance in Nigeria. We must not and cannot permit the champions of ethnic chauvinism to extinguish civil democracy, no matter its imperfection. In deference, we urge citizens to embrace dialogue and conversation initiated by the national broadcast of President Tinubu about the policies of the federal government aimed at revamping the economy and restoring socio-political balance in Nigeria. While we recognize that some of the policies of President Tinubu have not sufficiently addressed the challenges of Nigerians, we strongly condemn the proponents of regime change outside of the ballot box. We are also concerned about the silence of federal government ministers, especially the ministers of defense, police, and information, in addressing the protesters to complement the president's broadcast. A pathway to good governance. The fundamentals of good governance are embedded in the social contract between the government and citizens. A fertile ground for poor governance emerges when the government reneges on the social contract and the citizens are docile and sycophantic instead of holding government officials accountable and to take responsibility for their actions. This insidious admixture has defined politics and governance in Nigeria. This tends to debase government policies to stopgap measures and palliative framework, not and heavily encrusted by prebendal sentiments that stoke profligacy and corrupt practices in public service. We wish to urge President Tinubu to take appropriate steps, appropriate actions to drastically curtail extravagant and ostentatious use of public funds at all levels of government. Restoring federalism. Since its inception in December 1992, the Movement for National Reformation, MNR, has been a strong advocate for the restructuring of Nigeria on true federal tenets, where the federating units, as elsewhere in the Committee of Nations, play a significant role in determining the form and content of a country's federalism. We share that view that there is a federation because federated units agree to federate. This existential truism guided the deliberations of the founding fathers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as they negotiated the federal structure of Nigeria during the era of colonial administration and subsequent decolonization period leading to enactment of the 1963 Republican Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on 1st October 1963. Unfortunately, the Nigerian military coup on January 15, 1966, aborted civilian rule in Nigeria and placed the 1963 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under suspension to this day. As a result, governance in Nigeria became hinged on military decrees with attendant dire and debilitating consequences on the pristine tenets of federalism and impetuous quick-fix psyche of citizens on policy issues. Like most Nigerians, we at MNR are of the view that the return to democratic civilian governance since 1999 has provided us a golden opportunity to re-examine the legitimacy of many constitutional issues, including the federal structure of Nigeria. This requires a reset and a paradigm shift from the distorted federalism foisted on the Federal Republic of Nigeria by a heavy reliance on decrees during the long period of military interregnum from 1966 to 1979 and 1983 to 1999. The broad agitation for the restructuring of Nigeria is anchored on the demand to restore and revive true federalism in Nigeria. As the document currently dubbed the 1999 Constitution is a unitary document that emerged from the military decree number 24 of 1999. It did not derive from a consensus of we the people of Nigeria as the basis of a republican and democratic document like the case with the 1966 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This vitiates the document dubbed the 1999 Constitution of any iota of legitimacy. Since 1963 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was suspended and never abrogated, it remains the only legitimate federal constitution that our founding fathers bequeathed to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Therefore, a restoration of the 1963 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the wish of all indigenous ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. This is a critical element of the manifestos of MNR, NADECO, PRONACO, and Nigeria's indigenous ethnic nationalities. We agree with the youths that things are so bad, and it's quite understandable if they have no confidence in the politicians and some elders. However, we believe that the effective strategy is to first address the structural problems which, in fairness to the politicians, exacerbated their problems. We in MNR believe that to restore the 1963 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and amend it with contemporary realities will provide a legal, stable social context in resolving the structural problems that afflict the polity. We appeal to President Tinubu to give due consideration to this imperative. Thank you all. May God bless the President and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for your time and your attention. Thank you very much. We were different ethnic communities living peacefully with each other as neighbors. Colonialism came and brought us together as one entity, and we remained so until 1st October 1963, when we imbibed full-scale self-rule and enacted a constitution by ourselves. No more colonial constitution. So that 1963 constitution is the foundation of Nigeria. The reformed Nigeria came about not colonial Nigeria anymore, came about on 1st October 1963 with the enactment of the Republican Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. With that in view, between then and now, that constitution lasted for only 2 years, 3 months, and 2 weeks. It was suspended from 15th of January 1966 because of the military coup. As a result, it has remained in suspension. All we are saying is that that constitution, the federal tenets in that constitution are good for our diverse, plural diversity, whether it is ethnic, whether it's religious, whether it's whatever. We are a diverse people. We have lived together before under colonialism. Now under self-rule, a greater part of our living has been under military rule from 1966 until now, with two, what we can now call interregnums, in 79 for civilian rule and 99 today for civilian rule. Now that our forefathers met in Lagos in 1963, accepted Republican federalism, let's go back to that constitution, bring it back from suspension, amend it with current realities that exist in Nigeria. For instance, as at 1963, we were running a parliamentary system of government. We are currently running a presidential system of government. That's the current reality. As at 1963, we had only 2 federating units, the federal government and 4 federating units. Today, we have the federal government and 36 federating units and 774 local governments, making it a 3-tier federating system. We need to review all of this. But technically, because of military rule, the 36 states and the 774 local government areas are simply composite administrative areas because there's no power devolution. There's no self-autonomy to them. They are simply composite administrative areas because the federal tenets of the 1963 Constitution were set aside by Decree number 34 of 1966 that introduced unity governance in Nigeria and took away the powers of all the federating units. So our basic prayer is, let's go back to that constitution. That's the foundation of Nigeria. We're not talking about colonial Nigeria. Colonial people did Nigeria, and they've gone. And during a period of transition from 1st October 1960 to 30th September 1963, for 3 years, the colonialists were here to watch over us. We all gathered and said, we want to remain as one single entity, but as a Republican federation. And so that decision of ethnic nationalities in Lagos in July 1963 was sent to the Federal House of Representatives, who enacted that into law by the Constitution of 1st October 1963. So that Constitution is our own. We the people of Nigeria, made it. Our forefathers who made that Constitution are not less important than you and I today. We descended from them. So we are carrying forward with the job and the foundation they established. So let's go back to that Constitution. Remember also that a military decree is a political process that helps the military to professionally handle power that they took by force from civil authority. It's not a constitution. You can't amend a decree. Funny enough, or surprisingly, or curiously, whenever we have a civilian administration, they go into full gear to say all previous laws, including decrees, have become acts of the parliament. So if decree number 1 that suspended the constitution has become an act of the parliament, is it not something curious to see? If decree number 34 of 1966 that unified political power into the hands of federal government and took away power from federating units, and we call it an act of the parliament, I mean, that is something we need to interrogate. So there are lots and lots of salient issues like that that we need to interrogate. We can only interrogate them under a legal court and a stable social system. which is provided by the 1963 Constitution. And we can do so. And whatever comes out of that becomes our new constitution now that we will operate with.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions here?
Respond to some of the questions. But let me say this about 1963 Constitution. Going back to 1963 Constitution doesn't mean we're going back to operate 4 federating units as it were in 1963. No, we're only saying the federal structure, the federal tenets of that constitution are strong enough to hold our plural diversity together as one entity. Secondly, that constitution made sufficient provisions to deal with some of the challenges that we see today, such as agitations for whether separation or whatever. That constitution made adequate provision for it. So the current realities will be what we already have as the starting point. That starting point is technically a safe retrieval process of our nativity. For instance, the existing 36 states, any few states that think they are the same homogeneous ethnic group, they want to remain as one federating unit, can do a boundary adjustment. Do a referendum within their citizens or their residents. Once they agree that, yes, we are collapsing 2 or 3 states into one federating unit, that would be fine. It wouldn't be a problem. Federating units is not about equality of size, equality of population, no. Take the US, for instance. It has 50 states. The state of California, as of 2022, has a population of 39 million. The state of Wyoming, as at the same 2022, has a population of only 581,000 people. But both of them are states in the US. So it's about going back to look at our plural diversity, make adjustment to suit what any ethnic nationality requires, homogeneous or heterogeneous, and we'll carry on. And as you remember, the fundamental thing that has been ignored even in public communication is that Nigeria was reformed upon the enactment of the Constitution, the Republican Constitution of 1963. Before then, it was a colonial Nigeria with colonial constitutions, about 4 of them. 1922 was the first one, with subsequent amendments in 46, in 1951, in 1954. So the colonialists said, we have done what we need to do, we want to go. What do you people want? If our ethnic nationalities in 1963 say, we are not going to continue as a federation, we would have reverted back to our ethnic boundaries. But they say, no, we have seen how good it is to remain together in a plural diversity. But we want to be a Republican federation. So they sent that decision to parliamentarians in the House of Reps in 1963. They enacted that into a constitution of 1963. So that's the foundation for reforming Nigeria. So if you throw away that document, you are throwing away the country. We are standing here because this house is standing on a foundation. Remove the foundation of this house, none of us will be here. There will be no comfort to any one of us, if at all we survive it. So that is why they observe tendencies, insidious wranglings within the country cannot be defined. Let's go back to the foundation, but improve that foundation with current realities. All the efforts, for instance, the 2014 CONFAB report will be an input in reviewing amending 1963 Constitution. The works that so many other organizations like NINAS have spent time and resources gathering valuable information. It will be an input in amending 1963 Constitution. Same thing with the Patriots and any other organization. All of those ideas will come to be input into reviewing the 1963 Constitution. Above all, the existing elected officials will manage the process. There will be no extra cost to the government, to public treasury. Existing elected officials will manage that process because they have our mandate of we the people. We elected them into parliament or into executive offices by the non-universal adult suffrage principle, by partisan politics. So they have our mandate as we the people. But no decree of a military administration, no matter how good, has our mandate. The 1999 Constitution, or the document called 1999 Constitution, is simply, as you already know, an attachment to Decree number 24. So we are being governed by Decree 24. The military, remember one key word. A decree is a political process. That is the way they will professionally, by their own profession, of managers of violence and force, they will professionally manage power that they have taken from civil authority by force of God. So that's why we need to review, to repeal certain decrees that have entrenched military rule in Nigeria. For instance, Decree number 1 of 1966, it suspended the Constitution. Decree 34 of 1966, it unified political power and took away powers from federating units. And other decrees that came in place are Decree of 1984 that reintroduced military regime after the civilian interregnum. And another decree in 1986 after a change in guards of the military administration. Then you take the final one, Decree 24 of 1999, that says it has handed over power.
Right.
So we repeal them, amend the Constitution with all its realities. We have a brand new Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my
Thank you,
leader. Yeah, he asked to quote Nigerian, but you quoted some from a certain section of the country. I read one of the papers, and it quoted the opinions of different sections of the country. It quoted an eminent personality like Professor Angu Abdullahi. It quoted Professor Awalu Yadudu. They gave their opinions based on their identities. In that report, the report said that the Ohanese agreed that Nigeria needs a new constitution. Afenifere, representing the Southwest people, also agreed that Nigeria should have a new constitution. Pandev, representing the South-South, also said so. And from this part, North Central, or we prefer to call ourselves Middle Belt people, the president of Middle Belt Forum, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, actually said, yes, we need a constitution, and we should go back to the 1963 constitutions and capture into it current realities. So it's a very popular opinion in the polity of Nigeria to have a new constitution. And there's nothing wrong in making these genuine requests or desires known. It's the feelings and the opinions of the people. And I'm sure the leadership of the country is better off listening. And President Tinubu is lucky to have all these opinions coming to him. He is our boss, he is our president, he will sort things out. So we are just speaking as leaders of thought. Thank you very much.
In addition,
Introduce yourself.
from Southwest, you know, the agitation for a new constitution is part of deepening our democracy. What is democracy? According to the National Bill of Human Rights, where the will of the people shall be the basis of authority of government. You see, what we want is constitution of Nigeria and not constitution for Nigeria. That is constitution that emerged from people. You see, the process upon which a constitution emerged defines validity. You see, defines validity. So what I say, constitution of Nigeria, that constitution made by Nigeria, and not constitution for Nigeria. First one. You know, then our scenario now resembles that of the 60. The 1960 constitution that first given to Nigeria was a schedule to the British in Council. Just like 1990, just like this constitution is a
yes.
decree of that 1999 decree.
Yes, schedule.
Schedule, thank you.
Decree.
No. So our people now gather that within this space of democracy, let us now come out with a constitution that define our wills and wishes. Here comes the 1963 constitution, and that's why we are saying that the 1999 decree of this constitution too must follow the suit. Let's have a new constitution from the democratic environment that we just, you see. And they say you cannot fight for the people without the people. Let the people define how they will organize themselves. And the reason why you see Boko Haram, this and that, is that because of the absence of the people's constitution, it's a protocol of survival that we all agree this is how we organize ourselves. You continue to fight that violent something. You see, let us resolve and come. And that's why we say we need that new constitution that will brought in this space of democratic for us. So 1963 constitution, and what happened is that, you see, well, I will say we should continue to demilitarize our politics. And that's what the constitution that will also assist in demilitarization process. You know, the 1963 constitution was decolonization. They tried to decolonize. But the substitution of that one, our army militarized. And we have to decolonize and demilitarize our society. And the constitution must be helpful. And that's what we are agitating for. You see, and you see, in there is this political bureau during the Babangida regime that Professor Ghana led. It was though you know, Babangida was a very crafty something. He will give you, he will collect your opinion, this and that, only to betray you at the end. It's the most trustworthy political summit because it really reflected many ways there. But you know, you just throw it away. So what we are saying is that we need a constitution from Nigeria for Nigeria, and not constitution made for Nigeria. And that is why we are. And as a 1961 was the first one where our people gathered. They started intimidation, where they gathered, and they came out that let us put on that one. Constitution is not static, only stable, because it continues to evolve, to accommodate new changes, and to define new processes that we're going to do. So that's why I say let us take that 1963 constitution, and even if the military don't overtake government by then, the constitution was face a lot of series of amendments, not that. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. On this note, let me thank my